So this course is going to be for people that are looking for better ways of helping people communicate. So you might practice journalism marketing for a leader, but then it's also just the introduction to journalism marketing. So leaders that want to understand a better, more efficient way of communication could also be using this course. So do you have any advice for people that could be using the course or are thinking about implementing journalism marketing in their organization? What would you say to somebody that's just getting into journalism marketing or somebody that wants to do it well? Do you have any advice?
Yeah, think of journalism marketing as a tool to make your communication within your company that much more fluid. And when you have communication, you have growth. And that's the best thing. So you can use something like journalism marketing to get your message across your entire company in a matter of seconds, whether it's a 2-second clip or a 2-minute video, it doesn't matter. Get it out there so that your staff look at you as open, available, and ready to progress to the next steps, whatever business you're in.
Tell us about your journalism career and what you do now.
So I worked for CTV. I was hired in college to be a technical broadcaster, working as a camera person, an editor, live truck operator. I was actually the first female live truck operator in Kitchener-Waterloo area in the region, breaking down some barriers there. And then I decided after years of doing the tech side of things that I wanted to expand in the world of TV, and I became a video journalist. And I was hired by CBC out in Newfoundland and Labrador with a coverage area all by myself that was 6 hours wide. So time management was essential, but we'll get to that a little bit more. From there, I ended up moving back to Ontario as a bureau chief in Sarnia. Before the recession of, I believe it's 2009, 2010 hit, the bureau closed down, and I took the opportunity to move to Germany, where I became a print journalist and a photographer for a British Forces newspaper over there. After that, I came back, went back out to Newfoundland because that place has my heart, and became a senior reporter for NTV News. The cool thing about having that position was it's a much smaller shop. Even though they are one of the top news stations in Eastern Canada. So you got to do a lot more. So I was both tech and I was journalist all at the same time. It was amazing. And I got huge coverage area. Again, traveling all over a province that is massive with a very tiny population. Time efficiency is essential. Again, more to that in a bit, which then led me back to Ontario. As a promotions producer for CTV, and then I became the first MMJ at CTV here in Kitchener, using my technical background and my journalism background to help evolve what is now the video journalist job at CTV Kitchener, where reporters are both camera person, editor, and journalist all in one. And I actually ended up training some of the senior staff there, like Nicole Lampa, how to use the kit and how to go out to a remote location, edit it all on a iPad, and send it back via a backwards computer system called the Gateway to the station, where it would then go on air, and also film yourself live with an iPad. So it was quite the evolution. Then I went into sales. I realized I needed a little bit more time due to certain life circumstances, and sales gave me the opportunity to really delve into my family life, which was great, which then led me to where I currently am, and that's as the Director of Business Development for Gaslight Events Company down at Tapestry Hall. It's a great job. It's fun. We plan events. I mean, it's a riot, and we work in the most beautiful venue in southwestern Ontario, in my opinion, but of course I'm biased.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's incredibly beautiful, and it's an amazing environment with really talented people. And I think, let's explain the significance of Tapestry Hall. Let's tell people about what Tapestry Hall is and the economic development that it's providing the region.
Tapestry Hall is one of the most incredible venues in southwestern Ontario. It is part of a bigger picture, kind of a development and entertainment and events district for a region in Kitchener-Waterloo and Cambridge. Located in the heart of Galt. It's down in Cambridge, right along the Grand River. It's this amazing events venue that's part of a place where there's going to be restaurants. There's a brewery that is part of our greater picture called Foundry Brewing and Hardwater. There's going to be some artisan shops. There's going to be a beautiful courtyard. There's going to be a tavern and a pub. It is all encompassing. And so what I do there is help to sell and populate at current, until the other things are developed, sell and populate the event space. Attached to the Gaslight District are going to be 2 gigantic condo units. So it's going to be a massive, thriving economic force. The goal is to have 1,000 people working and 1,000 people living. So it's really going to be one of those places that has its own personality and people are going to thrive to in the region. So it's pretty special. It's bringing a lot. Something that we've always needed here, somewhere where you can say, hey, I'm going down to the district, I'm going to go see a show, I'm going to an event, there's a concert, my wedding is there, big corporate events, etc. And then I'm going to go over to the pub, or I'm going to go over to the fine dining restaurant, or I'm going to go shopping, etc., etc. It's going to really breathe this new life. That's really going to set us on another level in comparison to some of our cities that surround the area.
Yeah, no, for sure. And when you look at your career and you see you've gone from journalism to an area in a really productive business environment, and I know you've improved their sales, I know that you've done a lot for their communication. Can you just talk about the skills that you've gained through journalism or refined through journalism and how you implement that in like a really business environment?
Journalism is so incredible for developing any skill set. There are so many avenues as a journalist that you have to dabble in order to refine your skills to be a better journalist, that they transition very easily into other careers. Journalism has taught me a lot about, first of all, as I mentioned, time management. When you are on a deadline and that is all you got to work towards, you are working around the clock. You have to find 5, 6 interviews in a day. You're starting fresh every morning because news is very much immediate. So you are making those calls. You're looking at the clock. You're like, okay, I've got to get out to a 2-hour drive away to get this interview done. I've only got 15, 20 minutes to get it in. I better ask the right questions. I better know in my head what is going to happen there. And quite often it doesn't happen how you think it is going to happen, but you're able to improvise. All of these things are essential because you have to be back in time to edit the piece so that it gets out on air and looks professional and actually has a clear message. Those type of skills are essential when you come into a role where you're working in sales. You know, I'm talking to people every day, all day, from all walks of life, and I need to know that in a certain allotted amount of time, I can fit in so many different people through our venue or through a phone call or through a video chat, whatever it is, that I can move on to the next one and still close the deal, at least enough that I know there's going to be a signature on a contract relatively soon. So those time management skills were essential learning from journalism that transitioned into my current. The other thing is the people skills that you develop. In journalism, it's all about understanding the person you're talking about. If you want to ask questions to get the answers you need to understand who they are, so you need to listen to them. That same skill set is totally something that is valuable in sales. You listen to what they want. You ask the right questions. You find out who they are so you can see if that, you know, what you're doing has the right fit for them. Because sometimes you have to say no, sorry, it's not, this isn't the venue for you, or what we can provide you isn't what you really want. So here's my suggestions. The other thing you need to do is to be able to talk. As much as you are, like, listening's the first and foremost important thing when it comes to communication, but you also need to be able to tell a story. You need to share your enthusiasm, and that in journalism is important, because if you can genuinely talk to a person and you can get that enthusiasm, or you can get that empathy, or you can get whatever emotion it is that is coming out of the person, you can feel what they're feeling, you're going to be able to get more honest answers and straight up answers. And that's going to be so beneficial in the world of journalism, but also in a very beneficial way in sales. Because if I can talk to a client now and say, you know, for instance, right now, very relevant, COVID. lots of postponements, a lot of broken-hearted brides who are having to move their wedding plans, and it's tough. There's a lot of emotion there. But by talking to them and helping tell the story of what they can experience with us, they feel a lot more comfortable and they want to be there. So it's quite interesting. I always say that in journalism, you were a salesperson first because you had to convince people to go on camera or on a microphone or in print. That's a difficult task.
It's so unique, right? And the thing making this course that's really and just performing journalism marketing for years now, I'm realizing that asking questions and actually listening, it's not something that people really do often, and you'd be surprised how many people don't do it at all. Like what do you think about that? Do you have any tips on how people can listen better, the types of questions you can ask?
I think the starting point is make people at ease. So I always used to start in journalism with, I'm going to ask you the hardest question of your life. You just got to tell me this. How do you say and spell your name? And people would be like, what? And they'd be totally thrown off their game because they were all ready to be serious. I'm on camera or I'm on the microphone. And once you do that, they're just like, oh, she's fun. Oh, she's chill. And it would start allowing you to break the ice. And then ask easy questions to start, but really listen to what they're saying so that you can pick from that answer something they already know about and let them develop and let them build the story. Like I'll ask you your name and then you'd say, oh, my name's Adam. Okay, Adam, where are you from? All right, tell me that. Oh, Adam, what do you think about this? What do you do? Simple questions to start and build it up until they really get to the meat and potatoes of that interview. And then you'll have a much more genuine experience that comes across on camera.
Absolutely, because when you're listening, you're retaining information, you're developing a relationship, you're showing somebody that you're empathetic and you care. Like that's important. And then you mentioned storytelling. Like storytelling's an aspect, I think, you see marketers, you see people in like the marketing world and business, people seem to understand the story is important, but then there seems to be a disconnect between how you actually tell that story.
Yeah, funny you say that. It's very true. In the marketing world, you always talk about branding. Brand. Stick with your brand. Sometimes in a story, you got to think about what the brand is that you're actually going after. It's about quick thinking, essential quick thinking, on your toes to know where you can go.
Being adaptable, being accountable
Big
to
time.
to that kind of mentality, right?
Big time. Pivoting constantly.
Yeah. Are you telling stories when you're meeting people, when you're driving sales and you're marketing? Do you find you're telling stories often? Like, is that?
All the time.
Yeah.
Like, when you see the space, it's an easy sell, to be fair. I mean, the space is absolutely beautiful, but I'll use the example of when it wasn't so beautiful. When Tapestry Hall was being developed, it looked like a dirt pit. Literally. That's the only way you can describe it. You walk in, there are construction workers everywhere, there are pieces of metal that you can cut yourself on, there are piles of dirt, you have to wear a hard hat and a orange yellow vest.
And you had to sell it that way, right?
Had to sell it that way,
yeah.
Which is insane because you'd get would-be clients that would look at the space and go, are you actually going to be done on time? So you have to think of the story and create the magic, create the imagery in their head, tell them all of the possibility of what is to come and how they're going to be sad if they miss out, so to speak. It was fascinating. I remember I had this one couple come through, beautiful couple. We really vibed. They were awesome. They couldn't see it. They just couldn't understand how a venue that looked like a dirt pit was going to actually be a venue in time for their wedding this year. Of course, I made promises. I'm like, I promise you it's going to be beautiful. And I would tell them about how we've got this client doing this, we've got this client doing this. It's all going to be happening after the end of November. It's going to expand into this great thing. And then imagine what the courtyard's going to look like, et cetera, et cetera. Really describing and using every word I could imagine. They still didn't buy. They have since come back because their wedding has been canceled at their venue due to COVID, who have said, we've watched your facility, and venue grow and develop. Yeah. We've watched it blossom and it's everything you said it would be and more. You created this image and we just couldn't see it even though we knew that you were telling us exactly what it was going to be, but we couldn't understand it. And now we see it and we go, oh my gosh, we made the wrong decision. And now that we don't have a wedding date and we can't get one for quite some time, we're coming back and we want a quote. We want to come back to you because you guys are pretty incredible what you're doing. So that story that I told back in June of last year has stuck.
Memorable. Yes.
Now they're looking at our social media and our branding and going, yep, it is exactly and more. It's all a bit of a process and the development side of how to make sales happen.
When it comes to telling the story and having content to tell that story, like we've made a few videos, but generally speaking, as somebody in business, what does content, and somebody that has been in journalism, so you have experienced the way that people interact with content, can you talk about what content does to people and how it informs people, what it does to them emotionally?
Sure. The one thing you'll notice is back when I started in journalism back in 2004, that's quite some time ago. Yeah, it's a long time ago when you really think about it. A lot of changes. It's been evolutionary. Like even in 2004, we were editing tape to tape. So we had quick cuts that were literally, here's a cut, here's a cut, here's a cut, here's a cut. There was nothing fancy about it. There was nothing eye-catching. It was just dirty cuts that went on the news. Digital editing became a tool. You were able to entice the viewer a bit more because you could do the fancy cuts. You could put in the transitions that weren't just the generic star wipes that went. But the fundamentals have always been the same. Yeah. And that is keep the attention. And the attention is quick. All of us are like goldfish. We have a 2-second attention span. If it does not catch us within 2 seconds, we're like, whoa, squirrel. Yeah. Like we are in a whole other world. So when you're making content and you're marketing, using journalism as a base, you need to remember that it needs to be fresh. It needs to be quick. You don't want to make it long and drawn out because after 2 minutes, nothing matters anymore. You got another thing to do in your life because we are all so busy. And make sure that in that 2 seconds, you get enough information that is clear, concise, and to the point with a little bit of finesse and a little bit of fluff, that it makes it magical and memorable. I always say the 8-second rule for any clip is imperative. Not when you're doing an interview like this, but like if you're wanting to make a really quick point, think of your statement piece in 8 seconds. Map it out. Every 3 words is a second. So map it out in your brain. Say, I am going to talk to Adam about journalism marketing today, and it's going to be absolutely wonderful. So, we're sitting at 14 seconds right there, but with long drawn out pauses in between. There's my 8-second clip. Bam, you're in, you're done, you've got your message across, and it sits and resonates. The other thing is driving the message home in what's called the rule of it's almost like the camera rule of thirds, but the rule of threes. Someone needs to hear that message 3 times in order for it to sink in. You want people to know who you are. So you need to brand it accordingly in a manner that if you have, one piece of journalism or marketing material, make sure you have 2 more that you can pump out at a different time so that same person's going to hear it 3 times over. That's important.
You keep talking about the brand, and I think one of the reasons why people tune into journalism is because of the same high quality graphics they see every night with the booming music that, okay, I'm about to learn. Yeah. And it like activates something, and now we're tuned in and like literally tuned in.
And here tonight on CTV News or tonight on CBC, whatever it is, you always resonate with it. I saw this great video out of the UK. It was from BBC. And this woman, all these TikTok videos are exploding right now, right? Yeah. And this woman took the BBC News track for the opening and did a whole rave scene in her kitchen, DJing it. It went viral. But people resonate with it because they know this is the time now that my attention span has to clue into what I'm interested in. It's like a trigger in your brain.
And the trust can be related to branding because you trust the brand. So how would you say you can develop trust with an audience? we always say with journalism marketing, it's about telling true stories. So you're just being honest. You're not posing people so much. It's more just showing up and capturing the right content. But do you have any advice or insights on developing trust with people?
I think between journalism and sales and business development, it's all the same. Be honest, be straightforward, don't BS.
Yeah.
There's no need for it. You can put glitz and glam. It's like a girl. I can put as much makeup on as I want. I can look like a supermodel, no problem. It takes a little bit of effort, but it's not who I am. I'm still going to put makeup on because I love stuff, but that's part of who I am. But it is that whole, don't be false. Never be false. When you're talking to someone and you want them to know who you are or what your company is, tell them. Don't sit there thinking, oh, I need to know all these big words to describe what my company is. No, just be you. Be you straight across. I was taught in journalism that when I first started writing, because I was a tech, so I didn't learn via J school. I actually learned organically.
That's awesome.
And I was told, I'm one of those weird anomalies, but I was taught, talk like you, because you is who people will listen to. The reporter, Christina, is not who anyone cares about, because it's a farce.
So when people, so that's really interesting that you're saying that, because when we work with people, and it's been like hundreds of people now, you put a mic on them and they go stiff and they get worried and they're scared and some of them sweat. You know, like it's like a physical experience that is very uncomfortable for some people. And I've actually seen CEOs do that, of companies making, I could only imagine like hundreds of millions of dollars. So like it's interesting what happens when the camera turns on to people. So what would you say, because you've been on front of the camera and we've made videos together and you're really charismatic. Whenever the camera goes on, what do you say to somebody that might feel a little bit hesitant to be themselves in front of a camera?
Remember, you're a superstar. What it really boils down to is just be yourself.
Yeah.
Look at the person you're talking to. We are the same. We are just humans at the end of the day. This person wants to know something. You want to know something.
Yeah.
So answer the question. What would you say to your family members if your husband or wife came home and asked you a question? You just talk.
Yeah.
So do the same thing. That camera is a blank slate.
Yeah.
Yes, it's kind of intimidating because you can imagine that there are 1,000 million people on the other end of it, but there's not. There's you and that person you're talking to, so have a conversation and ask them questions too. You know, don't be afraid to stop the interview and say, hold on, I got a question about this, because that way that conversation is much more natural. You know, when you're in a group with your friends, say out at a pub, you're all talking over each other and you're having a great old time, and then there's always a moment where someone takes the stage and they just talk. Let that happen. You know, talk together and then just talk. Have your moment. Don't be afraid to screw up. These things are great because you can edit. Nowadays, you can have a great interview, unless you're live on air. That's a bit of a different story. But when you're working in journalism marketing, there's beautiful cover shots that sit over top of your head talking that, you know, if you had a big booger there or something, it would be hidden. Any professional like yourself, I know that you would cover up any imperfections so that I wouldn't look ridiculous on air. Know that you can stop and say, actually, I want to rephrase that. And that cut will be made. Yeah. Also, don't be afraid to say, actually, can you please not use that? And that's going back to the accountability as a journalist / salesperson. If someone says, please don't. It's as simple as that. Unless there's like some crazy criminal, and that's a whole other side of the story. But I'm talking about in generic ways. The other thing, to get comfortable in front of the camera, sit somewhere or stand somewhere that you're comfortable being in. And don't worry if it's, you're sitting in a chair like this. Yeah, you got to sit up a little straighter. Yeah, but be comfortable. Nobody's going to see you from the waist down typically. You can wear shorts if you want, or sandals. Just be you. And that way you come across as more genuine and trustworthy.